Hello, everybody. My name is Roland Miller. I'm a global solution architect for AWS Backup. Today, we are going to cover best practices for data backup and restore in the cloud for small and medium businesses. A little background on myself. So I'm a veteran. I spent, the early stages of my life, building bunkers in the desert when I spent time in the Marines. I've since spent the last 23 years working in data protection and storage solutions for customers, helping them build their bunkers on-prem and in the cloud. This is my family. I want to say hi, little shout out to my little dog, Milo. He's our family Chihuahua. If you want to look me up on the Twitters or on LinkedIn, feel free to reach out to me. I love hearing from customers and hearing about their experiences. In today's agenda, we're going to cover a number of topics. So we're going to talk a little bit about the trends in data and cybersecurity, things that are happening in real time today, make you aware of how data is growing, where we have our cybersecurity footprints, and how you want to be able to, better protect yourself. We're then going to dive into legacy challenges and some of the methods and procedures and tools that you're using today around data protection, what some of those challenges are, and then we'll cover how to overcome some of those challenges. Finally, why cloud, right? When it comes to data protection and backup, how does cloud impact what I'm doing today and where I'm going in the future? And then finally, we'll circle around, have a little conversation, some of the use cases and customer stories that I've helped customers with, and share with you some of our experiences at AWS on how to improve your infrastructure. Feel free for questions and answers. Feel free to post any questions in the chat. We'd be happy to answer them as we go along. And I'll also try and take some space at the end to answer some questions live. So first up, trends in data and cybersecurity. So things that you may or may not be aware of is data growth, right? From, when the internet was really just nascent to today, data has grown exponentially. And that exponential data growth has not slowed down, and we don't see it slowing down in the near future. In 2018, there were over 33 zettabytes worth of data globally that was under management in the cloud or on-prem. By 2025, there will be a 5.3x increase in storage stored around the world. Now, to put zettabyte in perspective, right? You probably have a smartphone, and that smartphone, its data storage is typically measured in gigabytes. Maybe you have 128 gigs or 256 gigs on your smartphone. Well, in server and compute infrastructure, we usually measure things in terabytes. So you go from gigabytes to terabytes. And then after terabytes, we start talking about petabytes. These are large file systems for large enterprises. After petabytes is exabytes. So you need 1,000 exabytes to get to your first zettabyte. And we are growing at such a rapid pace that we are going to be at 175,000 exabytes of data within the next 3 years. So these are the challenges that we face as AWS in helping our customers continue to manage and handle that growth at scale. Another area of topic that's very relevant today is cybersecurity threats are rampant. Ransomware has really become the scourge of the internet. For businesses, this has cost them upwards of $20 trillion in lost revenue, lost opportunity, and having to pay the ransom. Over 75% of IT organizations will face one or more ransomware threats by the year 2025. And you don't have to just take my word for it. You see it in the news. Maybe you've been personally impacted by it, whether it's through your business or maybe you've had to, wait in line to get gas, right? Because a pipeline was shut down. These are the things that really are challenging, and we want to help provide customers with the best solutions possible so that they can face these threats and be confident in their data protection strategies. So why does this matter for you and your business? Data is driving disruptive innovation. People are finding new ways to leverage their data. They're taking multiple data sources, they're combining them, they're creating data lakes, running new tools and analysis against that, turning it over to AI and machine learning, and enabling new insights based on the data that they've had, not just recently, but maybe even going back, many years. Some of the challenges, though, that come with more and more data, though, is it increases the surface area and the attack vectors that you may be facing as a business. As you try to transform your business into a data-driven one, you need to think about ways that you might be opening yourself up to threats. Data continues to drive resources. You have to procure, you have to do capacity planning, you have to spend to continue to grow your data estate. All of this requires time and resources on your part to manage and support an increasingly large data set. And then how do you protect yourself? Not just from the malicious, but sometimes the accidental. When we're constantly constrained by a budget, sometimes a lack of personnel or expertise in our fields. So let's jump in and start with understanding some of the challenges and the methods that we face with legacy infrastructure and architecture. So first, let's highlight some of the 5 customer on-prem data protection and backup challenges. Scalability. How can I, as an end user, manage constant expansion of my data infrastructure? When will I run out of storage? How do I predict that? Does that growth align with my budgets? Or do I need to purchase well in advance to make sure that I don't run out of capacity in my data center? Vulnerabilities. Are my backups secure from cyber attack? How do I know that? What tools and mechanisms do I have in place that give me the assurances to know that my data is protected and secure, and that a bad actor won't be able to come in and encrypt all of my data and hold my business ransom? Let's talk for a moment about the fragility of my infrastructure. Are my backups durable? Do I have high availability in my data protection services? Do I have an offsite copy? Do I have disaster recovery assets in place? Have I tested them? Do I know that that capability works in my infrastructure? And what about the cost? How do I maintain the cost of this infrastructure as my production data sets increase in size, my data protection needs will increase, and my disaster recovery costs will increase as well? How do I control that cost over time? And finally, complexity. As my infrastructure and applications continue to grow, what am I doing to manage that complexity? How am I allowing my environment to scale without having to increase headcount and expertise to maintain an expanding data universe within my own business? In a typical enterprise, your on-prem data protection system looks similar to this. You have your backup application and some local backup storage target. Now, oftentimes, for disaster recovery reasons, we will stand up additional offsite storage for replication and disaster recovery. Now, that offsite could be storage appliances, by well-known vendors that provide a lot of capability and availability. Some customers are still leveraging tape infrastructure, maybe due to the legacy nature of their applications. Maybe they're still using mainframe or mini systems, and tape's not an option, but it's a requirement. How do you continue to monitor, manage, and plan all of that backup storage growth at the primary location, right? And as it expands, how do you anticipate the growth at the disaster recovery site? Do you need to add more capacity? Do you know when that capacity is coming online? The costs quickly start to add up. Your storage growth becomes exponential. For every terabyte of production data, you could be generating 20 terabytes or more of backup data and DR copies. So let's talk about cloud. Why cloud for data backup and restore? Where does cloud fit into this picture? When you think about modernizing your backup storage, right? With on-prem backup storage, you face a number of questions. You have to procure, set up, manage, and monitor your own capacity. You prepay for all of that backup storage, maybe with a 3-year or 5-year life cycle, where you amortize it over time, but no real easy ability to scale up if you have a spike in demand, and no real way to recoup that cost if you over provisioned. Your availability is determined based on the hardware that you purchased and whether you purchased it for one site or if you purchased it for multiple sites. And yet you still have to have personnel that monitor and manage the daily maintenance of these systems, constantly keeping awake for the availability to make sure that your data is always protected. Oftentimes, customers pair these with multiple appliances across cities, sometimes across the country. But you have to manually manage and set all of your own SLAs. Some of the things that you're not going to face with AWS storage. You won't have to pay for fixed upfront storage costs. You simply pay for what you consume while you're consuming it. You're never going to have to worry about running out of capacity at the wrong time, or the storage you need today, you have to wait to buy until you have budget. You're able to procure it as it's needed. And AWS provides industry-leading data durability. Capacity is stored redundantly across multiple data centers within a region, and you always have the option to make further copies into additional regions. You don't have to schedule or manage daily or weekly maintenance. All of the storage and management is handled behind the scenes in our cloud services. And you don't have to settle for lower availability or uptime by having to buy multiple appliances. You get all of that built in to the storage services. So let's recap a little bit. What are good RPOs and RTOs, right? Where does my business fit? How do I determine, if my backup software can write to the cloud? How do I know if my backups are encrypted? And how can I be sure about that? Do I want to continue to install, patch, and update my own infrastructure? When was the last time I was able to validate a recovery? And how many backup copies do I really need? Do I need them on-prem, local? Do I want to recover locally? Or should I think about setting up a pilot like DR? Maybe I can fail over to the cloud. And in the days of ransomware and cyber attacks, how can I ensure that my backups are truly immutable and safe from unauthorized or accidental deletion? When it comes to modernizing your backup infrastructure, it's a multi-step journey. And everybody is in a different place on this journey today. You may be still fully in the data center, and you're simply looking for AWS to provide some mechanisms for drop-in compatibility to work with the tool sets and applications that you're comfortable with using today. And so adding backup to the cloud is really just that first step in a multi-step journey to enabling cloud transformation. For cases like that, we have solutions such as AWS's Storage Gateway and our Tape Gateway appliance that you can bring into your data center. You can replace existing tape infrastructure and archive data directly to cloud. Or maybe your DBAs and application owners are used to writing backups to their local NFS or SMB shares and file services that you have in your data center. For that, we have other appliances such as EFS, part of our file gateway, as well as FSX for Windows that allow native integration with the tools and applications that your application owners are already using and familiar with. So allow us to help you eliminate that tape and file infrastructure without having to change the way you're doing things today. Some customers have already adopted a hybrid model. They're a little bit mixed. They're on-prem, maybe they've got a little bit in the cloud, and they're looking to enhance what their applications support today. Maybe they're already using data protection appliances by their various vendors. And what they really want is a direct-to-cloud experience. Many of our APM network solution provider partners support direct-to-cloud integrations today. They can write directly to Amazon S3, as well as S3 Glacier. Depending on the application, some support even more advanced capabilities. They might even support S3's native tiering capabilities. Or maybe it's an application that still wants a native interface. Protocols such as NFS supported by Amazon EFS, or SMB supported by Amazon FSX for Windows. And the third type of customer is the one that's already in the cloud. Maybe you were born in the cloud, or maybe you're at the tail end and your transformation's almost complete. You've gone through the stages of lift and shift. Now you've been rewriting your applications using AWS the way it was meant to be used, procuring resources on demand, releasing them when you don't need them, writing to applications such as RDS, DynamoDB, hosting application services on EC2, snapshotting them with EBS storage. And you're looking for a way to consolidate and manage all of that backup infrastructure under one central set of utilities. For that, AWS Backup provides a tremendous amount of broad capabilities across many services. So let's move forward. Let's get started on your journey to the cloud. If you're looking for modernization of your existing infrastructure and you have on-prem data and applications to protect, let's talk to you about our gateway services, our S3 storage services, and some of our other migration tools and utilities such as DataSync. If you're trying to modernize or you want to use additional cloud native applications and on-prem, some of our storage partners support both. And for the services that they don't support, you can still manage centrally with AWS Backup. So let's jump into a few of the benefits of taking advantage of cloud storage. First, higher availability for your backup data. With AWS Backup and Amazon S3, we support 11 nines of data durability. And the way that that's classified is, as data is written to the cloud, it is distributed across multiple data centers within a region. We call these availability zones. Each availability zone itself is highly contained and redundant, but we make sure that your data is copied to at least 3 AZs to make it fully distributed within a region. And each availability zone can be spread as far as 60 miles from each other. So there's plenty of availability and redundancy within a region. But for customers that want that next level, we also support replication features, the ability to move data from one region to another. So the next step on your journey from a benefit standpoint is a reduction in cost. So whether you're trying to reduce cost of your existing infrastructure, maybe you're using tape within your own infrastructure today, and you're looking to get rid of that, you could look at traditional storage appliances in the data center. But if you haven't made that leap already, this is an opportunity for you to leap ahead and move forward straight to the cloud. We'll help you identify the cost of your infrastructure, help you reduce the maintenance, the administration time, right? The archive services, and provide you with a benefit in the cloud by managing all that infrastructure for you. And you only pay for what you store, for how long you store it for. When it comes to direct archiving to the cloud and writing, whether it's writing data on-prem or into AWS, there's a number of factors and different cost advantages when you modernize your backup storage over traditional backup storage appliances. The flexibility and pay-as-you-go cost structure of AWS storage cannot be matched by traditional backup storage appliances with large upfront fixed costs and ongoing costs that rarely, if ever, decrease for data center space. Networking hardware and software maintenance are often factors, and the management costs of N+1 appliances that must be routinely upgraded, even those with advanced capabilities. So let us help you reduce the cost of the storage infrastructure in your data center and transition to a flexible pay-as-you-go model. And our solution architects and field sales teams can help you create a TCO analysis that matches your needs. So let's get into a couple of specifics, right? Some use cases and maybe some anecdotes about customers. So I've been in the industry for 23 years and I've seen a lot of different architectures, a lot of different tools used, capabilities. But let's start with on-prem and hybrid use cases, right? Oftentimes, customers or partners will come to me and say, well, how does AWS, right, compete with this partner or that partner? And I really try to focus on, AWS is not here to compete with any particular vendor out in the world. What we're really focused on is the customer and working backwards from their needs. Not everybody has the opportunity to turn off their applications, turn off their business, and reboot it in the cloud. I have dealt with large insurance firms that are 150 years old. They're still maintaining records, right? When you think about an insurance policy, how long do you have to store that record for? Well, typically the lifetime of, the policy owner plus anywhere from 10 to 20 years. Or what about, the VA? I've had, requests from them. How do I manage data when the law states that their information, the records for that veteran have to be kept for 100+ years? Or how about people that work on civil projects, building a bridge, and they have to maintain both the paper copies and the digital records for the lifetime of the structure? Have you thought about how old the Brooklyn Bridge is now? Right? So these are the challenges that customers face. And so oftentimes, doing a quick flip the light switch on and off transformation isn't always possible. And it's often this journey that not just AWS, but our partners help our customers achieve. So you may have good reason to continue to use the solutions and the third-party tools that you have in place. What we're trying to help you identify is ways that you can connect to public cloud resources that give you capabilities to enhance the experiences that you already have with your current vendors. So if you're using a traditional data protection solution and that's the way that you need to move forward for now, then engage that partner. They will reach out to us, we will engage with them, and we will help craft a joint solution that meets your needs. So if you're writing applications and databases, and this is a very common scenario, then they can take advantage of Amazon S3, right? That third-party solution can directly write their backups to an S3 bucket. Maybe to reduce cost, you use S3IA. You can use intelligent tiering to auto-tier the data. And most important, you can protect and make that data immutable using object lock. Further, for that long-term archives, if I've got to keep that record for 50+ years, then we have those tiers of storage like S3 Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive, where I can take copies and I can push them down to that lower tier, knowing that I have them, they're protected, they're available, and I won't need to access them unless I'm trying to retrieve them for an audit, or some other record keeping activity. Our network of technology and consulting partners is vast. The AWS Partner Network for storage alone contains many of the partners that you may be using and leveraging today. But I also want to highlight our consulting partners. Many of our partners in the consulting domain will sit down and help craft the right cloud solution to meet your needs. And if you're looking for some that are specific in the data protection area, these are the partners that you can trust to help you back up to the cloud with AWS Backup storage. So let's transition for a moment. Say, but what if I'm on the other end of that spectrum? I've now made my commitments, I've moved my data into the cloud, or maybe I'm a young company and I don't want to deal with any on-prem infrastructure. The cloud was really made for these customers. For the customer that says, I want it, this is the advantage today that I think, 20 years ago is so wildly different. When I was still young in my career, I remember, you talk to somebody and they say, hey, I'm going to go work for this startup. And the first thing the startup has to go do is they have to go hire some IT staff because they had to go build servers. They had to get their email up and running. They had to install email servers, set up DNS, right? File services, go procure all the licenses for the applications that all the users are using. The thing that's really changed in that rapid growth of, startup culture that I see on the coasts is the fact that anybody anywhere can now start a business. Once you get your LLC, you go out You log in to the cloud and you can procure all of the services that you need to function as a business, whether those are SaaS applications or infrastructure services, and they're all cloud native. But that's created its own set of challenges, right? And to solve for those challenges, AWS launched AWS Backup. The AWS Backup service was launched in 2019. We are built for cloud native data protection. Our charter as a service is to provide data protection across all stateful data services within AWS. Year to date, we have delivered 9 stateful services, everything from database applications like Amazon RDS and DynamoDB and Aurora, to file systems such as FSx for Windows and Lustre and EFS, virtual machine protection for Amazon EC2, and on-prem storage through our partnership with the AWS Storage Gateway team. We provide a fully managed, policy-based backup service that's easy to centrally manage and automate the backup of data across all your AWS services. So how does that work? As I stated, we protect 9 stateful services today. So we integrate with these services, and each service provides us a mechanism to be able to capture a snapshot or a backup from each of their individual storage integrations. The AWS Backup service itself does not cost anything to enable. We act as a control and orchestration plane to manage the backups, and everything starts with a backup plan. You go into the AWS Backup console, you create your first backup plan, you set the schedule and the retention of your backups, and then you apply those backup plans to the individual services or to tags, and then you tag the resources that you want protected. Logging and notifications are configured through other Amazon services such as CloudWatch and CloudTrail. You can get notifications through Amazon SNS, so alerts if a backup failed, for example. And all of your data is securely stored in a backup vault. And we integrate with services like AWS Organizations to be able to scale across any number of accounts, and to also provide cross-account copy features that allow us to protect the backups in different vaults under different root authorities. This is how we enable protection from accidental or malicious deletion. Access is controlled via IAM, and you can secure both your access to the backup console as well as further lock down access to the backup vaults through SCP policies and vault access policies. And then finally, no solution would be complete without compliance reporting, so that you can audit and be ensured that your backups have been captured and retained and are encrypted and stored appropriately, even once you've moved to the cloud. A common architecture that many of my larger enterprise customers are deploying is they're using our tested and supported cross-account, cross-region copy capabilities with AWS orgs to provide local backup and recovery, operational recovery, for instance, within individual application user accounts, And you see that on the left, whether you're protecting EBS and EFS in one account and Aurora and RDS in another account. They provide local backups to their local vaults within their own accounts, but then we allow them through their backup plans and policies to copy those backups both cross-region and cross-account. And many of our customers are creating dedicated backup accounts that are further restricted with separate credentials to protect those backup assets, but still giving the application owners and users the flexibility to perform their own recoveries within their own accounts in the event of disaster. AWS Backup is alive and running across 25 regions today. We are currently available across most commercial regions, including some private regions, such as GovCloud and our China regions. This service will be available as new regions come online. You will see AWS Backup as part of the portfolio of services delivered when those regions turn up. So now we're going to talk about a few of the best practices for securing backups, whether they're in the cloud or in your data center. You want to apply multiple layers of security. Think about your backup data as your last line of defense. While much of your security posture has been about preventing the bad guys from getting in, as a data protection specialist, I take the viewpoint of they're already in your network. How do I ensure that this data will be recoverable no matter what? A few of the steps that I take and encourage customers to take: restrict user access. Provide security by only providing access to the data assets that your end users actually need. Enable multi-factor authentication. Turning on two-factor or multi-factor authentication is a simple and easy way to ensure that only the right user can log in and access that data. Build immutable backups, whether that is through architecture and enabling cross-account copies under different root owners, or whether it's by turning on object lock in S3, or archiving data to Glacier or Glacier Deep Archive. Provide immutability for the copies of your data that are necessary for recovery. Enable encryption and use restrictive key policies. This protects you even if something happens and somebody tries to exfiltrate your data. That data will be unusable by those bad actors if it's encrypted and you control your keys. Separation of roles and responsibilities. Separating those who have physical access from those who have logical access provides additional ways to protect your data. Nobody should have direct access to your backup storage that doesn't absolutely need it. And finally, enable auditing. Set up procedures and mechanisms and tools that can provide guarantees that as your data is being created, it follows these best practices. And remember, your transformation is a journey. Whether you are trying to enhance your current infrastructure or build new infrastructure in the cloud, AWS provides the fundamentals that you need for security, availability, performance, and cost optimization. Transform your architectures. This will enable you to increase that agility, your ability to innovate, take advantage of our data services, modernize, build data lakes, extend your services to the edge. These transformations will help you maximize your business results. Curate a culture of innovation. Make real-time decisions. Use cutting-edge technologies like AI and ML. Go out and create new services for your customers. I hope you've enjoyed our talk today. Again, my name's Roland Miller. I want to say thank you. As a backup specialist, I always say, always have a backup plan. If you're interested in testing out any of our storage or backup resources, we have some online workshops we'd love for you to try. Reach out to storage on aws.workshop.aws and give it a try yourself.